Hey y'all, it's Tasia and welcome back to my channel. From the title of this video, you can probably already guess the exciting news I have to share with you today. I am debt free minus the mortgage. As of today, I have paid off a total of $37,567 in about 18 months. And I'm excited to share how I did this with you. So stay tuned. So before I could even fathom the idea of living life debt free, I had to first learn how to manage my money. I graduated from college in around the winter time of 2015 and immediately entered the workforce in January of 2016. I was making the most money I'd ever made in my life, and surprisingly, I did not know how to manage it. Your girl was balling out of control. With all of this money, I still found myself living from paycheck to paycheck. And my salary was more than enough to take care of this one person and also save money for a rainy day. Something that I did put into practice immediately when entering the workforce is I created a savings account and I set aside $200 to go into that bank account out of every paycheck. But again, because I was balling out of control, I was often having to dip into that savings account just to cover myself until I got paid again. And forgive me if I'm looking down in my notes. I also had a car that my mother had purchased for me under her name, and I took over the payments when I started my job. And so around the end of 2016, I had about 2 payments left before the car would be completely paid off. But as life goes, I totaled the car a couple of weeks before Christmas. I believe they wrote me a $4,000 check. I'm sure the car was worth more than that. And I decided to purchase a brand new vehicle. Worst mistake ever. Never buy a brand new car, y'all. 2016 me was not the brightest. But anyways, I don't remember the total ticket price because I was just more focused on my monthly payment, which says a lot about where my mind was at the time. But I believe it was kind of in the lower 20,000s, coupling it with the student loan debt that I graduated with. I think it was like 24,000 when I graduated, and this was before interest started accruing afterwards. So I had about 40 something thousand dollars worth of debt. Didn't think nothing of it, just bought the car and moved on with my life. I thought I was doing good because I could afford the payments. Now we're moving into 2017. And just to backtrack a little bit, at the end of 2016, I remember being a little hurt because that savings account that I originally created to kind of be like a buffer or some sort of emergency fund had no money in it at the end of 2016, which makes sense because I was constantly dipping into it. So going into 2017, I really said I do not want to touch this money for any reason. Now, in 2017, I was still balling out of control, but I was managing not to dip into that savings account as much. I also got a credit card in 2017, my very first credit card, and I got it because I wanted to be able to, get cool points. But what I ended up using it for is to cover my ass where my savings account used to cover me. So what I would end up doing is wiping out the whole first paycheck of the month to pay off the credit card and then having to dip into a little bit of the second paycheck to cover myself. I never really went into like immense credit card debt, but there would be $2,000 to $5,000 balances on my card at a time, and it was something that gave me a lot of anxiety because I never was a huge fan of debt unless I deemed it necessary, and credit card debt always screamed kind of frivolous to me, and so having these large balances always made me a bit nervous. But did I stop balling out of control? I did not. Something else to note in 2017 is I started to travel. When I was in college, I was broke, so I didn't have a lot of money to go a lot of places. So I really wanted to kind of participate in travel in my young adulthood. So I wasn't going anywhere out of the country, nothing fancy, but I did go on a couple of cruises. A lot of flights, a lot of hotels, and then just the regular brunching and hanging out with friends. Again, balling. In 2017, I started a budget, but it wasn't anything to take serious. It was just a bunch of numbers on an Excel sheet. It wasn't directing my financial behavior at all, and I rarely checked it. But it made me feel better about myself, so that's that. And another thing, the last thing that I want to share with y'all about 2017 is I decided with my starter beginner's credit and my inability to manage finances that I wanted to be a homeowner. So I never was a huge fan of paying rent and then moving to a major city like Atlanta. I just was like, I don't want to shell out all of this money for this shitty ass apartment. So I just decided, hey, I'm going to be a homeowner. And I ended up finding out about a first time home buyers program, which I'll tell you about in another video, but I did do the NACA program to purchase my home. And yeah, I went to the first meeting kind of in the springtime of 2017, and I kind of started the process going into 2017. Apparently you do not have to have a good handle on your finances to purchase a house, because I did it. And the process was so like stressful for me because I was not managing my money properly. If you go through the process and you have a budget and you stick to your budget and you know where your money is going, you will be fine. But your girl did not do any of those things. So it was a constant struggle, constantly going back and forth, missing deadlines. But I got approved for a loan in the fall of 2017 regardless. So going into 2018, I closed on my house in February of that year. And one thing about buying a house that I did not know, because I was not the first person, my grandma bought a house, but like I didn't ask her for guidance on it or anything. I did not know about like all of the costs that you incur when purchasing a home. So I had to give a couple thou to be able to move into this baby. And then you're tasked with like furnishing it, getting insurance, you have HOA now. It was just a lot of stuff that I didn't consider beforehand. And do you think I budgeted for it? Hell no. So I remember just being stressed at the top of 2018 from all of the house expenditures. But wait, there's more. I also expanded my travel lust to international travel. So I closed on my house February 28th of 2018. And literally 2 weeks after that, I went on a trip to London and Paris. Was there a budget for that? Absolutely not, but your girl still did it. And in 2018, I just kept traveling. So in 2018 alone, I went to London, Paris, Turks and Caicos, Japan, and Korea. All in the same year. None of these trips were budgeted for. But just flying by the seat of my pants. And to be honest, at that point, I was really kind of feeling confident because nothing had stopped me. But your girl was stressed. Remember the $2,000 to $5,000 credit card balances? They were growing to be $7,000 to $10,000. And I was stressed. Stressed, honey. Just stressed as hell. But I remember just saying, it'll get better. I'm going to slow down. But I never slowed down for the entire year. Something cool to note that happened in 2018 is one of my really good friends started a financial journey of her own in 2018. But she was trying to be debt free. Now, I remember hearing her saying that and being like, wow, that's really cute for her. Never envisioned it for myself. But what I did want to talk to her about was her budgeting skills. I remember specifically being in Korea and her waking up before everyone in the morning and pulling out her planner and doing a budget. And I remember teasing her about it, but also being fascinated because here we were in another country and I was just swiping my credit card aimlessly, just figuring out how I'll cover that later. And she had a detailed plan for how much money she wanted to spend. And she was buying the same thing I was buying. Wasn't stressed at all, but meanwhile, I was like secretly just kind of pushing down the anxiety until the trip ended. So I remember saying, hey, I want to sit down with you and like I want to go over my budget. I need to know your ways. I need to know your skills. And that is where I want to kind of pause and take a note on different ways you can do things. There is no one way to achieve financial freedom or go on a debt-free journey. And I think the contrast between my friend and I is a really good indicator of that. She is what Dave Ramsey would call gazelle intense. Like, sis was not playing no games. In 2018, she really stopped most of the travel. I think the trip to Korea was the only trip she went on. She really wasn't eating out. She really wasn't going anywhere. She was solely dedicated to paying off her debt. And it was admirable, but just wasn't the life I was trying to live. Does that make her right and me wrong? Does that make me right or her wrong? Absolutely not. You have to do what's right for you. Another thing that was like a huge difference between us is she was a like write it down budgeter. I hate writing. It takes too long. My hand hurts. I'm a fan of just doing everything electronically. So I was budgeting on Excel. But I was still able to pick up the same principles from a written budget and apply it to the Excel budget. Just a quick note, I do have a video where I kind of go through my budgeting template and I share a free template with you guys. So be sure to check out that video. And I also have a link to the corresponding blog post below in the description bar. But yeah, I was just going. I want to say sometime in 2018 when we were having one of our budget meetings, my friend mentioned, like, if you keep making the minimum payments to your student loans, it's going to take you 10 years to pay it off, right? And I remember being like, yeah. But, like, my soul was like, bitch, what? Like, I knew it was a 10-year repayment plan, but it hadn't registered with my spirit that I would be in my 30s paying off shit that I did in my 19 and 20s. Take two. So late 2018 is when I started to make the transition towards a more debt-free journey than just a generic financial journey. So basically I sat with my friend and we kind of looked at where I could pull money from to pay on top of my minimum payments. Again, she was gazelle intense, so she was like, give all your money away. I was chill, and so I was like, I could do about 500. And so that's where we started. And that's okay. You start where you feel comfortable. I guarantee as you get deeper into the journey, you won't continue at the same rate because it's exciting. You get more motivated as you see the balance decrease. So going into 2019 is exactly what happened. I started to make the payments. Something else that kind of took financial priority in 2019 was, remember y'all, in 2018 I purchased a house, did not put anything in it because I decided I wanted to see the world. And in 2019 I was like, yeah, I'm sick of hearing the echoes. So it started to become a priority for me to kind of nest and turn my house into a home. But remember, I still wanted to be paying off my debt and reducing that debt timeline down. But in 2018, it didn't register to me that like I could drastically decrease it. I just heard 10 years and was like, I don't want to do 10 years. If I give this extra $300 to $500 a month, maybe I can get it down to 8 or 7 years. Is where my mindset was when we entered 2019. So at the beginning of 2019, I got my house painted. I was buying furniture. Again, I didn't finance anything. I was cash flowing all of these expenditures, and it was taking up the bulk of my money. But that was fine. That's where my heart was, and that's what I did. But I still made sure that I was giving at least $500 a month in addition to my minimum payments towards my debt. And that made me feel okay at the time. So we get to kind of mid 2019, and I just finished a big project, which was my office. And I kind of was like, well, let me chill on the house stuff and let me just start to throw a little bit more money. So that's what I did. And then I started to do sinking funds in 2019 as well. And what I love about sinking funds is it really helps me not feel deprived financially. It's not that I can't have things, it's just how much do you want it? Are you willing to save for it? And so I started to kind of create little sinking funds for small things that I wanted to do sometime throughout the year. One of the big things was a solo trip to Spain for my birthday. So in November of 2019, I did go on a solo trip to Spain. And again, nothing was financed. That trip was fully cash flowed thanks to my new budgeting system and just me taking my finances more seriously. At the end of 2019, I left my very first job and I transitioned to another job. In my line of work, when you get a new job, you get a signing bonus. And this is when I knew that I was kind of ready to go ham. I gave my entire signing bonus to my student loans. The entire signing bonus to my student loans. Can you believe it? I can't believe it. But I did that shit. And it really got the balance down to where my mind switched to maybe this isn't a 7-year process. This could be a 2-year process. And then the more I paid off, the more I was like, I could be debt free like in 2020. Like, and that was all I needed to register in my mind for me to switch to gazelle intense and start to go ham. Again, was I still living life and doing the things I wanted to do? Yes, but I had other priorities. Do y'all remember that savings account that I was putting $200 into out of every paycheck since 2016? Well, we can take out 2016, starting 2017, because I was balling too hard in 2016. Well, that balance happened to be the exact amount I needed in about March of 2020 to pay off my entire student loans. So I did that shit. I drained the account and I paid off the student loan. Again, I could have kept the money and known that I had an emergency savings the entire time. But again, once I saw that I could decrease that timeline to be debt free in 2020, I was all in. And so I then took the minimum payment and the extra payments that I was making towards my student loans, and I was throwing that all at my car, throwing all of the money at my car. Then the pandemic happened in like March, April-ish, and so I transitioned to working from home. So my gas decreased tremendously, and I was taking the train, and so the money that I kind of budgeted for transportation to and from work also was thrown at my debt. And so with that, I was able to pay everything off and make my last debt payment on August the 7th, 2020. The journey was hard, I'm not going to lie, but I learned so much about myself and so much about money. And one of the things that I really learned about money is what motivates me. I am just not a numbers person. I am not super into capitalism. I approached my debt-free journey and just a better relationship with money overall from a lens of wellness. Remember, the credit card balances giving me anxiety. Just the whole way I was handling my money gave me a lot of stress. And as someone who's like struggles with anxiety, I wasn't making my living situation any better, just balling out and swiping first and asking questions later. And so being able to budget and know where my money was going has given me a peace that I wouldn't trade for anything. Another thing that I learned about money is that, you know, the way our money system is set up in America is just not designed for everyone to succeed. And what that means is everyone won't be a millionaire. And you can use that and think like, wow, that's super pessimistic. But what that did for me was it just made me less hard on myself. Once I like took it out of my mind that I don't have to be the next Oprah Winfrey, I don't have to create generational wealth, I don't have to break generational curses, I just have to do what's best for me in my financial journey. It really just made it more palpable and more tangible for me as well. And so when you start off on your financial journey, you know, you can look to others for inspiration, but you don't have to duplicate their effort. Again, think about what you want for yourself, the type of relationship you want with your money, the things that you want to achieve in the future, and that maybe your current financial situation isn't compatible with, and see what you can do to get better. Something as small as beginning to write down all of your expenses for a week and then just analyzing those expenses the next week is something that you can do just to have an idea of where your money is going. There was a point where I was saying, oh no, I'm trying to save money, I'm trying to do this, but then I was looking at my credit card statements and I was eating out every night. So, are you a budgetista in the Google Sheets, but like a baller in the streets? Because that's the life I was living. And I really think that having a budget really keeps you accountable. You can say anything you want, you can think anything you want, but when you're looking at those numbers, they don't lie. And so it's the first step that you can take to get an idea of where you are and start the plan of where you need to be. Again, thank you so much for watching this video. I really wanted to share my journey to just kind of give back to the YouTube community because it has been so imperative in my own financial journey. Shout out to the Budget Mom, Dave Ramsey, Shay Budgets, all of the budget people out there on the internet. I was watching you guys tirelessly. And yeah, be sure to check out my budget template video. I'll be sure to link the blog post with the link to the budget template below. But again, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you when I see you.